You are listening to 613 Creatives. As always, a big thank you to our audience for tuning in, subscribing, and sharing this podcast with their fellow filmmakers. You can listen on Spotify and watch on YouTube, where you'll discover an infinite array of talent and topics. We aim to showcase the astounding richness of creativity that exists in this region. Check out our other episodes and let us know what you'd like to hear or if you have a story to tell. As for the latest story to tell, my guest today is a retired civil servant who discovered acting by accident just a few years ago. Since then, she's been involved with productions big and small, from indie films and TV series to documentaries and commercials. In recent years, she's worked on a film with local director Philippe Faradot, which headlined Sigourney Weaver and Comfior, and on two projects tackling the subject of residential schools. She has mainly honed her love of acting from silently observing others practice their craft and simply being part of the process. Today, she is a member of UDA and working on becoming a full member. I'd like to welcome to the show José Morisette. Hello, José. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being on the show. Our listeners would probably not know this, but José opened her home to myself and my crew for the latest short film that I produced, and couldn't have asked for a better host. And it was meant to be, because the layout of her home and the whole situation was exactly as I had envisioned it when I wrote the script. Felt like it was just meant to be, and everything just fell into place. So let's jump right into it. Tell us about how you got into acting by accident. This is an intriguing story, I'm sure.
Of course, Facebook being the tool that I was using at the time, I saw something go by, a casting request, and not knowing anything about acting or what a casting request was and what it meant, I called up a friend in Montreal who is an actual actor and asked him about it, and asked him if it was a fraud or if it was some kind of joke or whatever, and how to go about, because I was interested. And he told me, he says, just send your portfolio. Well, of course, I don't know anything about having a portfolio. What is a portfolio? Well, he says, just send your picture to the casting or the address and if they choose you, they'll call you up and you can do background work, meaning you'll be behind the scenes and you'll bring whatever action to life, like in natural occurrences, day occurrences. So the other problem was, at the time, I didn't have a cell phone, therefore no selfie. So I scrounged up, I managed, using my tablet, to take a picture, send it to the address, and within 15 minutes, they called me up and they said, yeah, how fast can you be here? And I thought, well, where is this thing being shot? And it was being shot in Chelsea. And at the time, I was about 12 minutes from Chelsea. So I just brought my gear and whatever clothes and went to and tapped on people's shoulders, because I didn't know where to go, didn't know what to do. I had no idea how film set would go and went, and who you talk to and whatever. And it was in the middle of the evening. So I just went in and actually saw some people that I actually knew from past life.
Oh, wow.
So that was nice. It was really, really nice. And then I got to meet a whole bunch of new people. And we did this movie of the week, what now we know as a MOU, or MOW, I should say, sorry. And I did it, came back home, and attempted to get into my condo and realized that I didn't have the key for my condo.
Uh-oh.
Looked and it was in February and it was
Oh,
freezing and it
no.
was midnight, 12:30 or something like that. So what do? Scrounged around, couldn't find anything. And I thought, well, there's no way, I can't sleep in my car. So I ended up going to the Hilton Hotel and having to book a room, because that was the
Yeah.
only place available. There
Oh.
were a few conferences going in the city, so everything was booked. So obviously, whatever money I made on that night, I paid double over.
Oh, no.
And I got the chance to stay at the Hilton presidential suite, which
Oh,
was
oh wow.
big enough for 10 people. And no, so that was how I dove into acting. And
Wow.
then from then on, it just since I knew how to go about it, I just looked at what was going on
Yeah.
Facebook and contacted casting directors
Right.
and got on their roster and did many movies for the first year. Within 6 months, I was able to apply for ACTRA
Oh wow.
as a extra, well, background performer, the AABP category. Yeah.
Wow,
So that's
that's
to tell you how many films I did in 6 months. It was incredible.
wow. I mean, clearly it was meant to be. I mean, it's one of these things that they call happy accidents, right?
Yeah,
You kind of fell
exactly.
into it, and everything just kind of like, and you got an amazing story out of it, a funny story out of it. When you were at the hotel, you should have told people that you're this high profile, Hollywood
Well,
actress, and
I actually kind of did. So they reduced the price on the hotel because it was 2 o'clock in the morning. And the guy told me, he says, well, this is the price. And I looked behind me, totally acting it. Well, do you see many people waiting for that room? Kind of thing. And do you realize what I've been doing all day? And blah, blah, blah. And said, oh, let me talk to the manager. So he went out and the guy says, well, how about this much? And I thought, yeah, okay, that's fine. Thank you very much. I'll take the room.
see, clearly acting's in your blood, because yeah.
Know how to get what you want with a kind of face.
That's amazing. That's awesome. Speaking of other filmmakers, you work with a mutual acquaintance of ours, Vincent Valentino, and one of these days I'm going to get Vincent on the show. I'm sure he's heard whispers of this podcast at this point. Yeah, you work with him on a silent role. I'm sure a lot of the people that may be tuning in know Vincent from Kino and other filmmaking venues and projects and things like that. He's definitely a very prolific guy in the filmmaking community in the region. What was your experience working with him? What was this silent role that you worked
Well,
on?
again, Facebook. Vince just posted something, a request for an elderly person, and he was doing a short. So I just sent him my information and told him that I was interested. And this was after having at least, I wouldn't have done it early on, but after having at least 15 movies under my belt. So he says, yeah, he says, let's do this. And it was a silent role, and it was a principal. And it's called A Song for Eleanor.
Okay.
But yeah, and it's on YouTube, and it's really about the elderly being shunned by family, and so
Okay.
the loneliness of people. So they're in their homes, but we tend to forget about the elderly population. And it was great. It was great. Like I said, it's a silent role, and I loved um, doing that because to me, the eyes are the door to the soul,
Hmm.
and you have to talk with your eyes before anything comes out of your mouth. And Vincent is such a sweet soul and a sensitive person that he was able to do that with this movie. And it was my first principal role, and I just loved it. And even though it wasn't an actor and it didn't give me credits for anything, I just loved the experience. And his camera work is so good. Yeah, it ended up being real. So if you have a chance, look it up. It's A Song for Eleanor on YouTube. And it's, yeah, he taught me a lot. He taught me a lot, really. And he has a way of pulling his actors, and a little bit like you, basically, when I saw you work, you have a way of pulling out what it is that you want, what you envision. And that's important to have that rapport between the director and the actor.
Hmm.
And the actor need to listen carefully to what it is. You can't go on set and impose,
Hmm.
whether you're an A-lister or a nobody like me. And you have to be able to have that connection with the director, and
Yeah.
you have to be able to listen carefully to
Hmm.
what it is, because it is their vision at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
It's their film. So you're just a tool.
Well,
And Vincent has a way to do that. Like and
yeah.
whatever I saw coming out of horror, sad drama, whatever, he has a way of connecting with that. So
Hmm. That's a sign. Yeah, that's a sign of a good director. Despite the fact that it might be one of the first lessons I ever learned was that despite the fact that the director might be in a position of authority, as you say, it's their vision and everything. They're still just a part of the team, and everything needs to be collaborative. When I was in film school, one of the components was directing the actor, and you had to see things from their side. So you got to see both sides of what it was like to director and actor, and that is an invaluable resource to have, invaluable tool to have when you get to see both sides. If you're looking to be a director, I highly recommend you see what it's like from the actor's side of things as well. It helps leaps and bounds for that communication. And thank you for the props. That's I don't take that lightly. I really appreciate someone who's worked with so many creative people to get props on my directing. I really appreciate that.
I really enjoyed that day. It was fun.
Yeah, it was absolutely. It was a blast. I'm not BSing to any degree when I say that was one of the most fun shoots I've ever been on. It was an amazing experience. With everybody involved. When you touched on the point about the eyes or the windows of the soul, it's the number one rule of acting filmmaking is show don't tell, right? So yeah, you gotta show it in yourself, your expression, your affectation before anything comes out of your mouth. So
I just want to say, and it's always funny because they always tell you don't look in the camera,
yes,
right?
yeah.
But then I've always thought, well, yeah, but you got to look at my eyes. You got to see what's coming through, right? So it was just a misnomer kind of thing. I just thought it was kind of weird.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, I think some of the most poignant or some of the performances that have really kind of maybe hit home and stuck with people the strongest are the ones where the actor is looking just off from the camera. So it almost looks like they're looking at them, without breaking the fourth wall. And, that really says something, right? Because they're kind of building a connection with the audience. So, yeah, little tip to remember there, folks. Let's kind of move forward here. I'd also like to know about this TV series, kids TV series that you worked on with Martin Cadot. You mentioned you learned a lot from this production. Tell us a little bit more about this kids TV series and what you learned.
Well, Martin is a local person, and but very well. Is worldly, really. He does not only kids TV series, and he mainly in French. But he also is a great documentarist. So I think he's almost been around the world, if not very close to it. But again, I've been very, very lucky with my directors. Another nice soul. And what I learned about Martin, as you were explaining before, is he puts himself into the actor's shoes, and working with kids, he has this way of connecting back to his own. So as stern as he can be, because he has a vision and he has a product that he has to deliver. Obviously, he always has that little moment, that little flair, and that little kid star in his eyes when he's working with the kids. So this was called, actually, I worked on two. He's right now working on a third one that I would really, really love to be able to work on. But the first one was for ages 6, 7, and it was called Midi et Val. So Midi being and Val being two characters.
Okay.
And it took place in this big castle, and it was very, very fairy tale like kind of thing. So I went in there again as background for a few times, and he puts attention, he pours in attention to his characters, whether they're background or the actual characters. He pours in a lot of effort into them. The second that I worked with, and I worked as a background, but I also became eventually the COVID director, was La vie compliquée de Léa Olivier. And that is for more of an older crowd. I'd say 12 to 14, maybe, adolescent kids. And it's from a book that was written, or a series of books that were written by a French Ontario author.
Okay.
And that again was fun. And the cast of character, of course, were older. They were older adolescents, and I got to know these kids like being with them for 4 weeks. But again, Martin had a way of connecting. He had that quality, and he taught me a lot also. He took the time whenever we had a bit, and I wanted some information on, well, why did you pick that angle, that camera angle? Why did you use this lens? Why did you ask for this? He has a way of connecting with all of his crew,
Okay.
from the people that do the artwork to if there's something, and he'll do it himself if it doesn't. So he's not afraid of getting in there and getting his hands dirty and doing it.
Hmm.
But like I said, I think he has that special sensibility quality that we should look for in directors when we're working, obviously depending on the type of work that you want to do.
Hmm.
But for me, it was a cat's meow, really.
Oh wow. Well, that's awesome. It sounds like he's very, very collaborative, and that's
Very, very much
just what you
so.
want.
And that's why he's an award-winning director.
Yeah.
So on the French scene, yeah,
Yeah.
he's well known. So and really, really liked.
I really appreciate the fact that you're such a sponge for the information for the whole process and how everything works. You're so curious.
Well, that's why I just love doing it, right?
Yeah.
It's that curiosity, and like I said, being lucky enough to have people who are willing to answer the questions.
Hmm.
Obviously, I wouldn't go in the middle of a scene and asking something stupid. I'll wait. But as soon as I had a minute, and I love to just sit in the background. I used to love to be the fly on the wall
Yeah.
and get away from people and just sit there and watch
Hmm.
how everything was being done, because it's an art. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's one of the greatest art forms, right?
Absolutely.
So I was really, really privileged. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. I would recommend anybody who's looking to get into acting. Yeah, that enthusiasm, that curiosity, that'll take you far. You'll learn so much, and it'll make things just enhance the experience like so much once you get to know the process. And speaking of enthusiasm, you mentioned to me a couple of your favorite projects that you worked on. One was a TV series, Pour Toi Flora and William. One was the Pourtois Flora was a TV series, and William was a VR series for
Mhm.
educational purposes. That sounds fascinating. Tell us a bit more about that.
Both for the same director, Sonia
Okay.
Bonsfield. First Nations projects. And funny enough, I got typecast for both the series because I played a nun, which is my poor grandma would have probably turned in her grave, because being of First Nations also, she was like, no, you're not on the right side of the story, but that's okay. Pour Toi Flora was, again, a French TV series, but got translated in many, many languages. And it was filmed here in the old nunnery on in Hull, that's now no longer, has been sold to the city and all. But we got the luxury of working in there, um, and it was again such a hard story to tell, but it was told with in such a delicate fashion, and it was right in the middle. I mean, with Sonia, it's easy to work, but it was right in the middle of the Truth and Reconciliation project, everything that was going on, and we worked with a lot of elders. So I got lucky enough to be able to sit down with elders, and after hard scenes, like I said, it was done in such a delicate fashion because we all know that a lot of things, bad things, happen to the kids, boys and girls, and the priests, and the kind of treatment that they were given. And she was filming it in a way that you knew what was happening behind the doors because of the introduction to the scene and the way that she would introduce those extremely hard scenes. And she had a way with the kids also, and to get them to play hard that you knew in reality were really, really hard things.
Hmm.
And again, being the fly on the wall for a lot of the scenes that being taken, it was done in such a nice way. But the people, the audience, you knew that the audience would understand and would know exactly what was happening behind those doors. And like I said, me playing background in the TV series, at least, playing a background nun and having to play hard. So again, I had to play with the face and the facial features and
Right.
being hard and stern and difficult. And you have to kind of transpose yourself. In some cases, some of the nuns in the schools weren't hard and hardened by the situation and weren't, and they had a hard time with it. So to me, it was a great project to be part of. And the virtual reality scene again was, and then we filmed that in Cumberland and using the old school, the Cumberland Village.
Right.
So we used the old school to work. And again, she typecast me as the nun because she said, "Well, you did a good job last time," but this time I was a principal character as the nun. And the premise of the entire project was to be shown in schools using the virtual reality masks
Oh,
and
okay.
going around the country and to get the kids and younger and older kids introduced to that reality. Um, in this specific project, what was funny is when she sent me the script, I didn't have any idea what language it was in. Because basically, what she wanted to do, most of the Indian kids that were taken to a residential school didn't speak English nor French. They spoke whatever dialect they were from, depending on the provinces. So she created for the nuns a language to mimic what the child, William, would understand or would hear, not understand, but would hear. So, for example, the word 98, 98, the number, because the kids were given numbers, would be kadrifidiwit. So, just to give the audience that feeling of, I'm William, I don't understand what you're saying, and I just hear kadrifidiwit.
Yeah.
And it's just to give the reality of the entire situation. Like when they cut the hair of the kids, the only thing you hear in your mask, your virtual reality thing, is the snip of the
Oh,
hair being cut. It's the scissors, is that sound. So it's really it impregnates the sounds and the entire view, and William being the camera. So in this particular case, I had to forget everything I had learned. Don't look in the camera.
right.
The camera being this 360 ball, I had to look in the camera. So the first few takes, it were just, no, no,
Oh.
Jose, look at the camera. Otherwise, they're not
Interactive.
getting right. So it's an interactive thing. So you
Mhm.
have to look because William is the camera. So it just
Right.
the mindset was like, oh, okay, I gotta look in the camera and. So that was interesting. And Sonia has such good vision, uh, regardless of what films she makes. She really impregnates the First Nations history and stories
Right.
very, very well.
I think that's a good point to get across to aspiring filmmakers if they want to sort of make the audience feel uneasy and disoriented and confused and a little scared. I really kind of want to put themselves in the shoes of someone in that experience.
If you don't mind, a very quick shout out to Abraham Cote, who's actually the one that did my episode. He's a
Okay.
young, upcoming First Nations director, and he's brilliant. He's really, really good. So, yeah,
Fantastic. Okay, everyone,
look.
check out his stuff. Abraham Cote. Does anybody want to shout out to? By all means, because that's what we're here for. We're here to promote and put the spotlight on local talent. I'm sure the audience is curious also to hear about this movie that you worked on, which starred Comfior and Sigourney Weaver. Tell us a bit about that experience and the people that you worked with.
Again, background in Montreal, downtown Montreal, in that Saint Jacques club. is it Saint-Jacques on Saint-Jacques, but it's one of the posh men's club in Montreal anyway. So we had the entire place. And Philippe Falardeau, again, he comes from here, was born here, not very far actually from this house that you met. And
Mm-hmm.
he's an internationally known I mean director. And he mainly works, funny enough, not on mainstream films. Philip likes to work on the beaten path a bit, and he doesn't necessarily do movies that are highly popular and stuff. He likes to do stuff that he likes and
Mm-hmm.
touches, pulls on the strings of his soul. And but he's a fun guy. He loves to have fun on set. And we used to have stickers on us because we couldn't be part of, the crowd, the regular crowd. So to recognize us, they'd give us stickers before we'd film and we'd pull them out. And if
Uh,
you passed by too close to him, he'd pull your sticker out and stick it on him or his forehead or something. So it was kind of fun. And Sigourney Weaver's a great actress. I
mm-hmm.
didn't realize she was that tall of a woman, so it was just really intimidating. It's like, oh my God.
Yep.
And Confior, well, he's a diva, but he's a funny diva. And I had a scene where I had to work exactly across from him,
Mm-hmm.
and while the camera was directly on my face, he was poking faces at me all the time and looking stupid just to make me laugh. So and then I thought, well, karma's a bitch, I mean, I may just get back at you. And of course, when they did the camera turn, I did exactly the same thing. So to get him to laugh and smile, but being such a professional, he didn't even wink, but he laughed afterwards. So that was kind of fun. And yeah, it was my Salinger years, if you want to see it, about a young intern working for Salinger, who's of course the hermit that we know, and that wrote that book that everybody presumably has read in high school. And but it was fun. And again, a different vision of a very well-known director that you'd think because of the stars that were there would be. But no, he took it extremely seriously and he downplayed everything so that everybody was included. Everybody had a part,
Mm-hmm.
everybody had something to do, but everybody felt at home. It was easy to work with him.
Everyone should be so lucky to have experiences like that when they're getting into acting. That's
And regardless of your background or you have two, three lines and it's
mhm.
it's great. It's just, that's what I like anyways. I just
Mhm. Yeah.
definitely.
No, that's awesome. That's oh my god. You used to work a lot on Ottawa-based Christmas and Hallmark movies, and we all know the area is famous for that. But you don't so much anymore. Why is that?
Politics and government and money. It's mainly because um, productions are getting subsidies
Mm-hmm.
and the Ontario government requires that they hire, especially for background, not necessarily for principals, but they require that they hire Ontario residents only.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, it cuts everything or everybody from the Quebec side that has an address in Quebec from working unless the production agrees. But otherwise, no, we can't do anything. We can't do anything. Or if there's a collaboration between the UDA, Quebec
Mm-hmm.
Union, and an actor production, then at that point you could be hired under your UDA status if you are.
Right.
But basically, it's all about money. It's all
Mm-hmm.
about money. So it's unfortunate for the actors, but
Yeah.
now I
Unfortunately,
have to
yeah. Unfortunately,
Montreal.
that's what it often comes down to, right? Speaking of which, in closing, so what sort of advice would you give someone, specifically francophone actors who are thinking about getting into acting?
Well, French or English doesn't really matter.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, French, there are a few production. There's one main production house that I know, which is the First Nation called Niche production in Gatineau. But otherwise, there'll be outsiders, Montreal productions that will come. So keep an eye out on the casting sites and see whether or not. Otherwise, you'll have to go to Montreal. But as far as acting is concerned, you must French or English again, whether regardless of the language, you must remember that your personality is at the service of the character that you play and not vice versa. You are that character only to the extent that the director will let you put in some of yours, but it's not the other way around. I mean, the character is not you. You will become, because you're, like I said, at the service of the character. So enjoy. It's a trip.
That's fantastic advice, and I can tell that as you're saying that you have an actor's soul. It's really, it's coming from within, and it's.
I feel like such an imposter. You have no idea.
You don't give yourself enough credit.
I mean, you can't fake it till you make it. That's for sure in this business.
That's right.
You won't last.
I can honestly say I have learned a few things today, some very valuable things from some things that I'm definitely going to be taking with me and keeping in mind and using in my work moving forward. And I hope our listeners have as well. I mean, that's what this is all about. So thank you again. Thank you so much. Thank you for all this.
People have a chance to work with you. Really, I do.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And same with you. I wish nothing but the best for your acting projects.
Thank you.
Yeah, I hope everyone found this to be an amazing learning experience. Thanks again to Jose and our listeners, and we'll see you next time, everybody.